to Pigskin Frenzy on this wonderful Thursday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joel Norris, and whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, listening on Podbean, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Thursday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some NFL coverage presented by me. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, like each episode, and leave comments down below. Spotify and Podbean, if you're listening on there, share around with others and follow on there as well. We have X, Facebook, and Instagram. All you gotta do is type in Pigskin Frenzy, follow, like the pages there. You'll get episode updates. You'll get news and highlights from across college and NFL football. You'll get trivia questions on Instagram stories. Go and answer today's, as well as all things up to date for Pigskin Frenzy. NFL day today. Thrilling week 2. A lot of upsets that we saw, and a lot of stuff that we were, kind of like, wow, didn't see that coming. Chargers 0-2. And we're not going to be talking about a lot about the Chargers today. I just wanted to bring up the Chargers, and that was a notable loss because they lost to overtime to the Titans. Lions are 1-1. They lost to the Seattle Seahawks, and we're going to talk about a lot of games, that we picked from last week and recap the top matchups going on to week 3. So not only that, a lot of injuries happened, and a lot of heartbreaking season-ending injuries happened, and it was tough to see, and a lot of fantasy goers are, oh man. But just on a personal level, for these players who were playing the game, tough break for a lot of these guys, and especially in the running back position as well. So we're going to go over Week 2 recap. We're going to preview and predict the top matches of Week 3, as well as go with injury updates to kind of kick off, the episode today. So subscribe to the channel on YouTube, like each episode, leave comments down below, follow on Spotify and Podbean, share around with others, and follow on X, Instagram, and Facebook for all things up to date for Pigskin Frenzy. Let's kick it off with the injury updates, and let's just move on out of the way here. So one key update, and by the way, I'll go through the other injury updates as we go through the show. But we're going to go with, 2 right now. We'll go with the last one during the games. But Browns running back Nick Chubb is now out for the season after suffering a significant knee injury. Possible dislocation and possible torn ligaments. It was the same knee that he injured back in Georgia when he was in Georgia in 2015 when he tore his PCL, MCL, and LCL in his knees. So big blow to this Browns offense, who honestly kind of relied on the run game of Nick Chubb. He was the reason why they won against the Cincinnati Bengals. He was partly the reason why they were doing so well in the first half against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers ended up winning this game on Monday Night Football, but tough break for Nick Chubb because he's had a history of these type of injuries, and it's really hard to come back from those injuries. So tough break for Nick Chubb. My thoughts and prayers go out to him. He's out for the season after having surgery, and he is looking to come back stronger than ever. Other news, Joe Burrow retweaked his calf in a loss to the Baltimore Ravens. We're going to get to that in a minute. Spoiler alert there, but he late in the game, he retweaked his calf that he injured in training camp, at the start of training camp, actually, getting ready in prep for the season. So retweaked his calf. His status is unknown and uncertain for the Los Angeles Rams game this coming up Monday night. We don't know any more information than that, but we will find out certainly closer as Monday night rolls around and as that game with the Los Angeles Rams, a pivotal game against the Los Angeles Rams, roll around. So those are some key injury updates. I'll go with one more during the recap of Week 2, and it's a tough break for these guys, especially in the injury market. A lot of people are getting hurt. A lot of people, including, the torn Achilles that Aaron Rodgers suffered. There's an update on that. He's hopefully trying to get back by playoffs. As the Jets make it to the playoffs, he is hoping to get back and be in physical condition to play through the playoffs in January. So that's going to be a remarkable recovery, a remarkable comeback, and certainly in nomination for an ESPY right there for Comeback Player of the Year and NFL Player Comeback Player of the Year. So that's would be an amazing and miraculous turnaround if that were to happen. But we got to see what the Jets do, and we got to see how well the recovery goes for Aaron Rodgers. But see, injuries like that, right? Injuries like that, injuries like the Joe Burrow retweaking his calf, Nick Chubb losing for the season, Shaq Thompson for he has a broken fibula and he just had surgery on that. Prayers and thoughts go out to him and for a speedy recovery. Panthers linebacker Shaq Thompson. A lot of injuries, and we're going to mention one in a minute. It's just right now, a lot of injuries are happening. I don't know what's going on. My honest guess, and my just opinion, would be to honestly limit days for training camp, limit days for game, for limit days for preseason games, and not just have a little bit more rest and more time off, because these injuries are something else. It's piling up. You have a lot of training camp days, 4-week preseason now, not 3 weeks, 4 weeks, as well as 18-week season. So that's going to be tough for a lot of people. And for some people, for 16 teams playoff, right? For an NFL playoff heading to a Super Bowl in February. So, I mean, it's a lot, it's a lot to do, and a lot to manage, to keep your body healthy. So it's one of those things where you got to get healthy and you got to get right and ready for the season. So, I mean, I would suggest, and this is my opinion, limit the preseason games, limit the training camp days, and just see where that goes, and let these guys get some rest, because they're working hard to come back onto the field, and now they're injuring themselves, which prevents them from playing the game that they love. So thoughts and prayers go out to these players, and hopefully they all make speedy recoveries. So let's recap week 3. And let's talk about it for a second. Final score for last Thursday's game, Thursday Night Football on Prime. Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit on the call. Wonderful game, by the way. I watched it, and I said it was going to be close, and I was right, and the outcome was right. Final score, Eagles 34, Vikings 28. Jalen Hurts, 18 for 23 with 193 yards and a touchdown with 1 interception. But the main 2 players of this game, Jalen Hurts played lights out, but the talent around him is what helped them win this game. Devontae Smith, his Alabama teammate, 4 receptions with 131 yards and 1 touchdown. Oh, and DeAndre Swift, former Lions running back, former Georgia running back, and current Eagles running back, now with the Eagles. So 28 carries with 175 yards and 1 touchdown for DeAndre Swift. No Kenneth Gainwell, no problem, right? The run game was solid with DeAndre Swift. He helped pick up what Kenneth Gainwell did not, produce, and he picked up a lot of the slack, right? So Eagles look good on offense. They looked rolling. They looked rolling on defense as well. And I kind of predicted that. They're 2-0, off to a good start. Let's go with the Vikings here real quick. The Vikings looked good. The Vikings looked, showed some moments of where, okay, we can compete with a lot of these guys, but they just fell short. Let's go with Kirk Cousins, and this is the reason why. 31 for 44 with 364 yards and 4 touchdowns. Kirk Cousins, in a loss against the Eagles, balled out. He looked like one of the better quarterbacks, and probably an elite quarterback in the league so far. Kirk Cousins is having a good year starting out. He's playing lights out, and he is trying to make every moment count up in Minnesota. Justin Jefferson, 11 receptions with 159 yards, no touchdowns. Jordan Addison, the rookie wide receiver, 3 receptions with 72 yards and 1 touchdown. KJ Osborne, 3 receptions with 34 yards and 1 touchdown. And their newly found tight end from Detroit, TJ Hawkinson, 7 receptions with 66 yards and 2 touchdowns for the stout tight end Hawkinson. So the Vikings look good. They look like they can win. They can win some football games, and I'm not really worried about the Vikings. I think Sunday is a very winnable game, and here on out, they look like they can win some ball games. So they had a tough 2 breaks, tough first 2 weeks, but I think with the schedule that they got coming up, they can turn that around and win some football games. So I'm not really worried about the Vikings at all. I think they showed some promise and heart, and they played lights out, along with Kirk Cousins leading that offense and taking control of that offense. He looked good, and it's just they ran into a talented team that's probably still the best in the conference in the Philadelphia Eagles. So final score there, 34-28. Eagles rout the Vikings. Vikings, they still got it. The Vikings still got it. It's only week 3. They're going to come out. They're going to come out swinging. The Eagles are going to look to keep the ball rolling. So moving on, let's go with the Ravens and the Bengals. Tough break there. Let me go on and tell you, tough break. The Bengals look like a team that are trying to get things rolling. I thought it was going to be it. I was wrong. Final score, Ravens 27, Bengals 24. Lamar Jackson 24 for 33 with 237 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had 12 carries with 54 yards. The running game with Gus Edwards was solid. He's a good backup option for J.K. Dobbins, now out with a torn Achilles, another injury. So prayers for him and speedy recovery for him as well. So 10 carries, 62 yards, and 1 touchdown for Gus Edwards. Nelson Aguilar had 5 receptions with 63 yards and 1 touchdown, and Mark Andrews had 5 receptions with 45 yards and 1 touchdown as he returns from a Week 1 injury. So the Ravens look solid, 2-0. They look like they are the front runners in the North right now. They look like they're developing a rhythm on offense, and they look good on the ground. A little bit more on the pass. They probably need to develop a little bit more in the throwing game, but that's fine, right? That is A-okay. As Lamar Jackson keeps on finding his rhythm and keeps on going, I'm pretty sure Ravens can develop a pretty lethal passing game soon. The Ravens look hot. They look solid, and they look like they can move the ball on just about anyone. So the Ravens look good, and they look like the clear-cut leaders of the North currently. 0-2 to start the season for Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Joe Burrow played a better game this time, but it wasn't enough to get the win. 27 for 41 with 222 yards with 2 touchdowns and an interception. He only had 5 yards rushing. T. Higgins, his guy, all day was 8 receptions with 89 yards and 2 touchdowns. His number one, Jamar Chase, 5 receptions with 31 yards. The Bengals are kind of struggling a little bit, and it's clear to see that they are. They look like a team that is, trying to find their footing. They're trying to find, what to do, right? They lost a game against the Browns. They didn't play well, and they didn't score a whole lot. They only scored 3 points. They scored points here, and they look like they can find a rhythm, but it was not enough to beat the Ravens. That's 2 losses, and that's 2 key losses because that's division games. Those are division games and conference games. So tough break for the Bengals starting 0-2. They're at the bottom of their division, right? They're at the bottom of the division right now. One, and especially because they're the back-to-back AFC Championship Conference appearances and back-to-back AFC North champions. That's so shocking to me because they're back-to-back division champions and they're starting the season 0-2. So it's kind of weird to see that. It looks like they don't have some oomph to them, right? They need something to get them going and to motivate them. And the Bengals just don't have that right now. And I don't know what they need to find and what motivation they need to find to get that, but they're going to have to find it quick as these games are going to get a lot tougher throughout the rest of the next 16 weeks. So as for the Ravens, they need to keep doing what they're doing. They're leading the pack right now. They look like a team that can, like I said, run through anybody, and their defense is very underrated, very stout and underrated defense by the Baltimore Ravens. They look good. Joe Burrow and the Bengals have to find their way soon, or these losses are going to keep adding up, and it's not looking good for Cincinnati Bengals starting out. But let's see if they find their way. It's only week 3, or going into week 3. So final score, Ravens 27, Bengals 24. 2 more games to conclude, the recap. Cowboys 30, Jets 10. I thought the Cowboys were going to win close, but I was wrong. It was a 20-point game. 20-point game for the Cowboys. Good win for them. Dak Prescott, 31 for 38 with 255 yards and 2 touchdowns, 6 carries with 14 yards. Tony Pollard played a big factor in this on the ground, 25 carries with 72 yards. CeeDee Lamb, 11 receptions with 143 yards. Let's go with the Jets really quick. Zach Wilson, 12 for 27 with 170 yards, 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions, 5 carries with 36 yards on the ground as well. Garrett Wilson had 2 receptions with 83 yards and 1 touchdown. So the 3 interceptions came from the Cowboys defense. And let's talk about the Cowboys for a second. They're still finding they had a better rhythm this week on offense. They did. The Jets kind of didn't know what to do with them. They lined CeeDee Lamb up against, anybody else but Sauce Gardner. They lined CeeDee Lamb up against Sauce Gardner once, and Sauce Gardner defended it. That's how elite Sauce Gardner is. So Sauce Gardner is y'all's guy on the defense in the secondary. He is a absolute monster and animal for y'all's defense. But they lined CeeDee Lamb up anywhere not near Sauce Gardner. And Ahmad Sauce Gardner, couldn't get a hold of CeeDee Lamb because he wasn't covering him. CeeDee Lamb had 143 yards and 11 receptions because Gardner was not on him. Lamb is a good receiver, but if you would have put Gardner on him a lot more, it may have been lowered. So Lucky for Lamb, he got all those yards. And, Dak Prescott, solid. He was solid in the air. He looked a little bit better, and he looked like he had a rhythm and, a little bit more control of that offense, right, for the Cowboys. But that defense is still the reason behind this Dallas team looking the way they're looking. I mean, Cowboys defense, they forced 4 takeaways and 3 sacks. In the past 2 weeks, they have a total of 10 sacks and 7 takeaways. Think about that. 10 sacks and 7 takeaways, and we're entering week 3. Can they stake their claim as the best defense in the league? Of course they can, because look at the numbers. They got the numbers to back it up, and the way they play, they look like they are the top defense in the National Football League currently. Micah Parsons, animal. DeMarcus Ware, animal. I mean, a lot of these guys, man. Trayvon Diggs, animal. Cowboys defense looks solid, and I'm excited to see how they keep playing. I mean, 10 sacks total, 7 takeaways total so far in the first 2 weeks, and we're only entering week 3. They stake their claim currently as the best defense in the league. What does this mean for the Jets? Now, the Jets, 1 loss. It was tough. Like I said, force Zach Wilson to make those turnovers and mistakes, and they did. That's the key to the game for them to win, and the Cowboys won it off that. The Jets, they just got to go back to the drawing board and see what they have to do. They have a top key division game this Sunday against the Pats. It's going to be one of those things where they're going to have to come to play, and it's going to be close. I mean, it's a home game for the Jets, which is good. Home game for the Jets, but it's going to be one of those things where they got to find a rhythm. The Pats still look good, even though, they suffered a loss to the Dolphins, which we're about to get to here in a minute. Spoiler alert. But, they looked good. So I would tread lightly against the Pats. You don't want to start out the season 1-2 after all that's been going on currently in the locker room for the Jets. So Jets going back to the drawing board. Final score 30-10. Cowboys rout the Jets in a 20-point win. And Dallas looks good on defense. Stake your claim as the best defense in the league. The Jets have to go back to the drawing board in order to get back on track against the New England Patriots coming up Sunday. So last game before we start picking and previewing some games. Final score, Dolphins 24, Patriots 17. Close game. And I said it was going to be a close game here in Sunday Night Football. Tua Tagovailoa for the Dolphins, 20 for 30 with 249 yards and 1 touchdown with 1 interception. He had 4 carries with 3 yards on the ground. The receivers, Jalen Waddle, 4 receptions with 86 yards. Tyreek Hill, 5 receptions with 40 yards and with a touchdown. The ground game was the key ingredient in this win. That's why the offense is so electric. Raheem Mostert was leading all charge on the ground. 18 carries with 121 yards and 2 touchdowns. Amazing, right? They look solid on the ground. Raheem Mostert had a perfect game plan. The Dolphins had 1 takeaway on defense as well. They looked solid on defense. Xavier Howard getting a pick and a turnover that Matt Jones threw. So leading into the Patriots now, right? Mac Jones, 31 for 42 with 231 yards and 1 touchdown with that 1 interception I was telling you about from defensive back Xavier Howard for the Dolphins. Ramondre Stevenson had 15 carries with 50 yards and 1 touchdown. Hunter Henry, 6 receptions with 52 yards and 1 touchdown. And on defense, Christian Gonzalez, the rookie defensive back out of Oregon, 6 tackles and 1 interception. Christian Gonzalez, a savage, right? He is a monster. He played lights out against the Dolphins, and he played good, and there was no reason and no wonder why Bill Belichick drafted him in the draft in the first round. So the Pats look good. The whole thing is they lost this game, and what I found interesting is they lost this game off of a 4th and short lateral pass. Joe were just inches away in a game-tying drive, and they were short. They were stopped short, inches away from that first down marker, and they did not get it, and the Dolphins won the game that way. Tough way to lose, too. Tough way to lose, and it was at home. The Pats look solid. They look good. They're 0-2 right now, and it may not look like they're solid, but they are. They're a solid football team, and they're going to get right, I think. They're going to get right, and it could start Sunday against a crucial division game against the Jets, right? You don't want to fall into 0-2 in divisional action. So let's just see how it goes. The Pats look like a team that could probably, do good on the remainder of their schedule. There's bright spots in this schedule that could potentially lead into the playoff. They're much better this year, but the Dolphins just look solid. They look like the better team out of the two. That offense, probably one of the best offenses in the NFL, if not the best offense in the NFL so far. Tua looking like a man possessed. He is going off through the air. Raheem Mostert picking up sort of the running attack and the rushing attack, and he's proven to be a solid adversary in the ground game. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, I mean, obviously, who's going to try to guard those guys, right? The offense looks like it's clicking on all cylinders, and they look good. They have an up-tempo offense, and Mike McDaniel, solid coach. I believe that the Dolphins are one of a team that you do not want to overlook. You do not need to underestimate this team. They're 2-0. They're white-hot right now on offense, and they look like they have one of the best attacks and offensive attacks in the league and game plans in the league. So I would watch out. Anybody who plays Miami, watch out, because they are putting people on notice early on this year. Final score, Dolphins 24, Patriots 17. Dolphins looking good. They look really good. Patriots still look good. They just have to find that rhythm and find that in order to win out those games. And I believe they will, because I think they are way better than they were last year, especially under new offensive coordinator Bill O'Brien. So final score 24-17. Dolphins beat the Patriots in a close one. That was our Week 3 recap. And now we're going to move on to Week 2 recap. And we're going to move on to our Week 3 preview and predictions for the NFL. I was starting to sound like this was college. We already did Week 4 predictions on Tuesday's episode. Go and rewatch that episode. So Week 3 NFL action, preview and predictions. Thursday Night Football, Giants at 49ers, and we're going to do this to conclude today's episode of Pigskin Frenzy. Giants at 49ers, Thursday night on Prime. The keys to this one, who fills in for Saquon Barkley? That's another injury. Saquon Barkley is out for at least 3 weeks after injuring his ankle with an ankle sprain at the end of the Arizona Cardinals comeback win. Electrifying win for the Giants, by the way, and it was a much-needed win for them. So who fills in for Saquon in the ground game? That's one. Saquon being hurt, prayers and thoughts go out to him as he recovers for this. Tough break as you lose to Saquon Barkley, because there's no need for it. You do not need to. It's early on, too. That's what's so hard about this. You lose players like Saquon due to an injury early on, and that's, it's not what anybody asked for. So who fills in for Saquon? That is that's one key. Another key is for Daniel Jones. He's got to be more efficient in decision making, so to win these games. I think his decision making was a little bit questionable in the Cardinals in the first half. Then he found his groove and found some technique there with his crisp decision making there at the second half of the game, and that's what led him to a comeback win. Daniel Jones needs to make effective decision making across the board the whole game. So I believe that's one. Number 2, and this is for the Cardinals, apply pressure to Daniel Jones to cause those mistakes. So make him make mistakes. Make him make those throws he was making in the first half against an Arizona Cardinals team. This defense is much different. This is a different NFC West team than you faced last week. You're facing a 49ers defense who is one of the best in the NFL. You got Nick Bosa on the end, and Fred Warner up in the middle. If I'm Nick Bosa, I am rushing Daniel Jones, and I am causing him to make those mistakes that he did against the Cowboys and make those mistakes that he did in the first half against the Arizona Cardinals. Who do I have winning this ball game? I have the 49ers beating the Giants. I think the 49ers are going to improve and move on and win this game. Giants going to fall a little bit short, 1-2. 49ers are going to move on and still be undefeated, 3-0. They look good. They look good the first 2 weeks. I think they have a claim as being the second best team in the NFC behind the Eagles. So 49ers and the Cowboys even, and the Cowboys. So 49ers defeat the Giants by a score of 35-21. I say 35-21. 49ers defeat the Giants, and it is a much impressive defensive effort on the 49ers end, and the Giants go back to the drawing board for Week 4 when they return home. So 49ers beat the Giants. Next game up, Saints at Packers. This is a good game. Saints are 2-0, but it's behind good defensive play. It's behind good defensive play. And for week 1, Derek Carr played lights out. Week 2, he didn't play. He played kind of hot and cold, like I was telling you about that he did against the Las Vegas Raiders early, before the season started. So, keys to the game. Derek Carr's got to find consistency on the offense and make good decision making. And the Saints defense has to keep playing the way they're playing, right? And it's a little of both. They got to keep playing the way they're playing, and Derek Carr has to find some sort of consistency so where he doesn't have to be hot and cold to win this ball, to win the ball game. That's the only way the Saints are going to improve to 3-0 and kind of tighten their grip, in the NFC South and potentially in the NFC early on. The Packers, the key for them, solid quarterback play from Jordan Love. Play like he did against the Bears. If he plays like he did against the Chicago Bears in week 1, the Packers will be fine. He played good against the Falcons. It's just the Falcons ended up playing a little bit better to pull out the surprising upset win, 2-0 for the Falcons. So, solid quarterback play from Jordan Love. And if they do that and it kind of throws the Saints defense off their heels, it looks like the Jordan Love can be, a factor, right, for this game. Who do I have winning this ball game? I have the Saints winning this ball game. I think it's going to be close. I think the Saints are going to win. It's going to be close. Jordan Love's going to play good, but I think the defense is just too good right now. And one could argue that they're atop the list with the Dallas Cowboys as a best defense contender currently. Even though I think the Cowboys edge it a little bit on paper. But the Saints keep playing defense. They find a way to do it. They kind of throw Jordan Love off balance a little bit at the end. It's a close game. I'll go with a 28-21 score. 28 Saints, 21 Packers. Final score there, and the Saints improve to 3-0, and the Packers go to 1-2 on the year, despite Jordan Love playing pretty good football in this game. So, 2 more games before we conclude today's episode of Pigskin Frenzy. Bills at Commanders. Solid and underrated game coming up Sunday in Washington. The keys to this one. And in Washington, it's been surprising a lot of people. They dominated in a good performance against Denver Broncos. The Bills bounced back from their loss against the Jets and dominated the Las Vegas Raiders. They looked like the Buffalo Bills we're used to seeing. So this is going to be a solid and underrated game Sunday afternoon, 1 o'clock Eastern. Washington, this is a key for them. Must block for Sam Howell. Protect him at all costs up front and let Sam Howell make the plays, right? That is the best way to put it for the quarterback, right? Sam Howell making the plays. Okay. That's the only key I got for Washington. Making the plays, doing dynamic work through the air, and he keeps doing the way he's doing, kind of how he played against the Denver Broncos. That offense is going to click, and they could probably win that ball game. Bills key. Josh Allen plays like the elite quarterback that we all know he is, right? He plays how he did against Las Vegas. He plays how he did against tough moments against the Kansas City Chiefs last season and beats them, right? Josh Allen plays like Josh Allen and how we know he is. He's a solid player. He's a good player, and we know that he's an MVP candidate at heart, right? So Josh Allen plays like he does, and they could potentially beat the Commanders. Who do I have winning this ball game? Close football game. Close game. I have the Bills beating the Commanders. It's a close game. I think the Commanders and Eric Bieniemy on offense are solid so far, but I think the Bills edge the Commanders close. Bills beat the Commanders by a score of 38-31. High-scoring affair, Bills 38, Commanders 31, touchdown score, and Josh Allen edges them and plays like how he did against Las Vegas, but the Commanders keep it close and lose a close game to the Bills. So Bills 38, Commanders 31, final score there. Last game before we conclude today's episode of Pigskin Frenzy, Eagles at Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. 2-0 and 2-0. Buccaneers playing solid, surprisingly, to start the season with Baker Mayfield leading the charge, playing well. And that defense looks very underrated. Surprising 2 teams early. The Bucs playing some good ball so far to start the season. As always, the Philadelphia Eagles playing nothing more than what we expected. Pretty solid and amazing football all around. So this game could be honestly could be one of the best games all week between the Eagles and the Buccaneers. It's in Tampa, NFC Conference game. Key for the Eagles, keep establishing the running game with DeAndre Swift, Kenneth Gainwell, and others. I think the running game is important for your playbook. Keep running the rock because it's working. I mean, picking up yards on the ground is helping this team, win, and they helped. It was a key component to that win against the Minnesota Vikings. So keep establishing the run game and keep plugging in and keep running the rock if you're the Eagles. And for the Buccaneers, simple. The D-line. I think the D-line is the central point in this game, but the Buccaneers on the D-line beats the Eagles and wins in the trenches. They have a huge asset right now there, and that's a key component to winning this ball game. They win in the trenches. Those are my two keys. And who do I got winning this ball game? I have the Eagles winning close. I have the Eagles improving to 3-0. I think it's going to be, all these games are pretty close. I think the Buccaneers and the Eagles will be no exception. Eagles win 35-28. 35-28. Similar score to the Vikings and Eagles score from last Thursday. Eagles 35, Buccaneers 28. Buccaneers fall to 2-1. Eagles improve to 3-0. Close game and strong effort by the D-line and Baker Mayfield, but the Eagles edge them close with a go-ahead touchdown from Jalen Hurts. So Eagles 35, Buccaneers 28, and they improve to 3-0 while the Buccaneers fall to 2-1. That just about does it for Pigskin Frenzy today. A big thank you for taking some time out of your Thursday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some NFL coverage presented by me. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, like each episode, and leave comments down below. Spotify and Podbean, if you're listening on there, share around with others and follow on there as well. We have X, Facebook, and Instagram. All you got to do is type in Pigskin Frenzy, follow and like the page there. You'll get episode updates as well as news, highlights, and highlights from across college and NFL football. Answer today's trivia question on Instagram stories, as well as all things up to date for Pigskin Frenzy. That just about does it. Again, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Thursday. Tuesday, we'll be back to recap week 4 of college football and pick and preview the top games for week 5 in college football. So enjoy football this weekend. I'm Joel Norris signing off, and we'll see you Tuesday for another edition of Pigskin Frenzy. And for everybody out there, stay the course.